Baldur, the beloved god of light, purity, and beauty in Norse mythology, is remembered for his tragic death, a turning point that set the prophecy of Ragnarok, the end of the world, in motion. As the son of Odin, the All-Father, and Frigg, the queen of the gods, Baldur was adored by all in Asgard and revered for his fairness, kindness, and wisdom. His radiant beauty and virtuous nature made him universally beloved, not only by the gods but by all creatures in the nine realms. Yet despite his grace and benevolence, Baldur's fate was marked by an unavoidable tragedy, one rooted in visions, family betrayal, and the inexorable pull of fate. The tale of Baldur's death begins with a series of disturbing dreams he experienced, visions of his own death that filled him with dread. Frigg, deeply troubled by her son's premonitions, could not bear the thought of losing him. She sought to protect him by taking a solemn vow from every creature, element, and object in the cosmos, imploring them to do no harm to her son. From fire and water to iron and stone, plants and animals, and even diseases, all swore an oath never to harm Baldur. Through Frigg's efforts, it seemed that Baldur was now invincible. To test Baldur's newfound invulnerability, the gods in Asgard began a game. They gathered and threw objects at him, knowing that nothing could harm him. Spears, rocks, and arrows were launched at Baldur, yet each projectile merely bounced off him, leaving him unharmed. The gods found great joy in this game, laughing and marveling at Baldur's newfound immunity, but one figure was less than pleased. Loki, the trickster god, was envious of the love and admiration Baldur received, and he resented the reverence all creatures showed him. With his cunning mind, Loki saw an opportunity to disrupt the gods' happiness by finding a way to exploit a single weakness. Loki disguised himself as an elderly woman and visited Frigg, engaging her in conversation. In her trust and pride, Frigg shared with this bold woman that there was one thing she had overlooked during her efforts to protect Baldur: mistletoe. The mistletoe plant seemed so small and insignificant that Frigg had deemed it harmless, never thinking it could pose a threat to her son. With this knowledge, Loki devised a sinister plan. Loki sought out a sprig of mistletoe, crafting it into a small, sharp dart. Returning to the place where the gods were still testing Baldur's invincibility, Loki approached Baldur's blind twin brother, Hod, who had been left out of the games. Loki convinced Hod to join the fun by giving him the mistletoe dart and guiding his hand to throw it at Baldur. Unaware of Loki's intentions, Hod launched the mistletoe dart at his brother, and, to the shock of all, it pierced Baldur's heart. Baldur fell dead on the spot, his light extinguished, leaving the gods and all of Asgard in stunned silence and despair. The death of Baldur struck Asgard with unspeakable sorrow. The gods were heartbroken over the loss of their most beloved member, and the skies darkened in mourning. Odin, Frigg, and the rest of the Aesir prepared an elaborate funeral for Baldur, laying his body on his ship, Ringhorni. The gods adorned him with treasures and tokens of love, and his wife, Nanna, overcome with grief, collapsed and died at his side. She, too, was placed on the funeral pyre to join her husband in death. Thor, wielding his mighty hammer Mjolnir, consecrated the pyre, and the ship was set aflame and pushed out to sea, carrying Baldur and Nanna into the afterlife. Yet, the gods held a faint hope that they might be able to retrieve Baldur from the realm of Hel, the cold, dark land of the dead. Odin's son Hermod, known for his speed, volunteered to travel to Helheim, the underworld ruled by the goddess Hel, and plead for Baldur's release. Riding Odin's eight-legged steed, Sleipnir, Hermod undertook the perilous journey through the dark, misty paths of Helheim. After days of travel, he finally arrived at Hel's hall and found Baldur there, seated in a place of honor but shrouded in the sorrow of the dead. Hermod implored Hel to release Baldur, explaining the depth of the gods' love for him and the grief that his death had caused across the realms. Hel, however, was unmoved by sentiment alone. She agreed to release Baldur on one condition: if every being in the nine realms, alive or dead, would weep for him, then he could return to the living. Hermod returned to Asgard with Hel's terms, and the gods quickly spread the word, asking every creature, every stone, every tree, and every drop of water to mourn Baldur's death. All creatures, moved by Baldur's kindness and beauty, shed tears in his memory, except for one being, a giantess named Thokk, who refused to weep. Many suspected that Thokk was Loki in disguise, once again undermining the gods and blocking Baldur's return out of spite. Because of Thokk's refusal, Hel kept her hold on Baldur, and he remained in the underworld until the time of Ragnarok, when he was prophesied to return. Baldur's death was not merely a tragedy but a cosmic event that marked the beginning of the end for the gods. His fall was one of the final omens foretelling the arrival of Ragnarok, the prophesied end of the world, and gods and monsters would clash in an ultimate battle. Baldur's death had created a fracture in the cosmos, one that could never truly be healed and that would ultimately lead to the gods' downfall. When Ragnarok finally comes to pass, Baldur's fate is not to fight against his kin but to rise from Hel's domain afterward and help rebuild the world. In the new world that emerges after Ragnarok, Baldur and his brother Hod are among the few gods who survive, destined to lead a regenerated universe cleansed of the old conflicts. His resurrection after the end of the world signals a return of light and purity, a reminder of the resilience of hope, love, and justice even in the face of destruction. In Norse mythology, Baldur's story is not just one of loss but also of the cyclical nature of life and death, the themes of fate, and the inevitability of endings that give rise to new beginnings. As the god of light, his death symbolizes the extinguishing of innocence, a necessary passage toward a new world. Baldur remains one of the most beloved figures in Norse myth, representing beauty, kindness, and the fragile yet enduring light that can emerge even from the darkest of times.